Good morning, friends. Hello, hello. How are you on this grand day? It is cold and getting colder. Spring is not quite come for us yet. Hope you're having a good day. Good morning, Jamie. Hey, Karen. Good morning to you. How are you all? Hope everything's going well for you and yours. It is tonight we are getting ready for our all church family night. If you're around at 5:30 and want to, hope you'll come and be a part of our time together. We have a great offering tonight. A great dinner always, but we have the Reverend Don Bliss is going to be with us to talk about spiritual gifts and the different gifts that we bring and that are implanted in us from the one who made us. So it's going to be a great program. Hey Donna, good morning to you. Hope you're doing all right. Oh, glad everyone is here. Got some one or two more folks coming along, and we'll get going here. All right. I don't know. I don't know when. I don't know, Jamie. That's a good question. Things are busy these days, so. All right. Good morning, friends. It is the 24th day of April here on this Wednesday at 11:11, and I'm glad you're here and glad you're a part of this journey. The great prophet Joshua, the great hero of the Old Testament, is the one who takes, in many ways, takes the mantle from Moses and goes into the promised land, to this place where there is nothing but warring tribes to which there is no home for Israel, that have been wandering in the desert, and it is Joshua that is commanded to go in and create a place for them to fight the giant tribes that are arrayed in the Holy Land, and take up the task of making home in this place, of going very much so on the grand adventure of no longer kind of being people lost in the woods, but to be a people, to stake a place in the world. And God's command to Joshua is, it's fairly famous, but it is this: from the first chapter of Joshua, verse 9. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. I think about that Joshua that set out on the grand adventure, that was called to courage, to establish a place for the people of Israel, to lead them in battles, and to take them to establish themselves as a people in a place with a place. To another Joshua, because this is actually Joshua Slocum Day, the 24th day of April has been named Joshua Slocum Day. If you don't know Joshua Slocum, it is because it is a tragedy, because he's one of the great figures, I think, of this area. He would live well. He would call home Fairhaven and part of Martha's Vineyard for a good part of his life, but he was at heart a sailor. He was he was a Nova Scotian. He ran away from home at the age of 14 and went to work on a fishing boat, and then as a cabin boy spent a year doing that. Decided that wasn't for him. Went back home and ended up a few years later, at the age of 16, becoming an able-bodied seaman and making his first transatlantic voyage on a merchantman. And he was from that time on, he was off to the races. Uh, so why do we care about Joshua Slocum? Is that Joshua Slocum was the first person that we know recorded to sail around the world alone. He single-handed his vessel, the Spray, in 1894 around the world. He would go, or rather, 1895. He would set off, which is really incredible that you think about that. That it was 1895 that really he was the first to single hand around the world alone. And today we have, any number of races that are about the most famous and the most competitive of them being the Vendée Globe, which is coming up, which will start this fall, which is a single-handed race of an open 60 class sailboat that will race around the world almost and with a pack of 30 or 30 so of them, and it will be a great spectacle of sailing prowess. But most will be expected to make it. Most will be expected to go. In 1895, no one had ever single-handed around the world, and no one had ever recorded it, certainly. Uh, as long as people had been setting the sea, as long as people had been sailing, and to take up the task of of circumnavigating by himself, and he would write a book about it called "Sailing Alone Around the World." I know, creative title, but uh, and and uh, and he would leave from Boston, Massachusetts, on this April 24th, 1895. He writes this on his departure from Boston. He says, "I had resolved on a voyage around the world, and as the wind on the morning of the April 24th, 1895 was fair, at noon I weighed anchor, I set sail, and I filled away from Boston, where the Spray had been moored snugly all winter. The 12 o'clock whistles were blowing just as the sloop shot ahead under full sail. A short board was made up of the harbor on the port tack, then coming about, she stood to seaward, with her boom well off to port, and swung past the ferries with lively heels. A photographer on the outer pier of East Boston got a picture of her, and she swept as she swept by, and her flag at the peak throwing her folds clear. A thrilling pulse beat high in me. My step was light on deck in the crisp air. I felt there could be no turning back, that I was engaging in an adventure, the meaning of which I thoroughly understood. That I was engaging in an adventure, the meaning of which I thoroughly understood. But was a man who, at that point, having been born in 1844, and now in 1895, and he had spent most of his life at sea, commanding numerous vessels, been serving in all different capacities. At this point in his life, he knew all that might happen in the course of his adventure. He knew all the things that could go wrong. He knew that one wrong decision, one wrong step would place him in an icy depth that would bring him death. Because, oh, by the way, Joshua Slocum never learned to swim. We are called every day, with the waking of our lives, to the courage of a Joshua. Whether it is the courage to step on to the adventure of this life. Now, that adventure for all of us may look something very different. We're not all called to be a great sailor and sail around the world. We're not all called to be a great warrior and go carve a place out for our people in this world. But we are all called to hear the words of that first Joshua, spoken to us by the one who made us. Have I not commanded you to be strong and of good courage? Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Friends, the Lord your God is with you right now. As you set off in the adventure of this day, we find ourselves at midday or whenever you're hearing this of my voice. Tomorrow you will rise, or today you are engaged in a great thing of what it is to be a child of God in this world. It's not often, Bible tells us, have I not commanded you? Jesus so often invites us into relationship and says, those who do what I command. Certainly the commandments give us bits of instruction. But this one from Joshua always feels a little different for me. Have I not commanded you? This reminder. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid and do not be discouraged. When Slocum his book went on to when he returned and wrote his book went on to incredible fame. It was considered the last in many ways of the great adventure novels, almost an anachronism. In 1895, it was even considered old-fashioned that that nearly in America, nearly every young man's bookcase or bedside table had a copy of Sailing Alone Around the World, and he would go on to sail the spray up and down the East Coast and around the world, putting into harbors and telling the stories of his grand adventures. When Slocum would and Slocum would tell these grand stories, but he would say this of the of those moments in which he found himself in treacherous seas. He would say, "But where, after all, would be the poetry of a sea where there were no wild waves? Where, friends, would be the poetry of a life where there were no wild things to overcome? Where there were no encounters with a discouragement where we might have courage? Where there were no moments of weakness that we might find our strength? Where there were no opportunities to face the dragons and the difficulties of our days?" Friends, the poetry of our lives, the poetry of our sea, the poetry of our voyages is built and known in the difficulties of our days. We wish it was other. We wish it was something else. But the reality is that is where we find it. If we are to be formed in this life, if we are to be a child of God, that as the great Whitehead tells us, the meaning of life is adventure. That truly we are whispered into this world, we are spoken into being so that we might go on the adventure of this life. Whether it is the adventure of the Joshua that stakes the land of Israel, or the adventure of Joshua Slocum that sets off to sail around the world alone, or it is us who sets out to step into our day with courage and with strength and with the promise of the Lord your God, who will be with you wherever you go. It's my hope today. I tell you the story of Josh Slocum just because he is a great hero of our little area and our little space. You can go over to Fairhaven and see the Slocum Monument. When I lived aboard our sailboat, we could see the Slocum Monument every day, and it reminded me of his presence and his in this world, and it reminded me of the adventure in which we are all called to live. And I invite you on this Joshua Day to remember the adventure in which you're called, to live well, to love well, to be courageous, to not be discouraged, to be strong in the places that you can find strength, and draw this always, always, always from the knowledge and from the reality that the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. All right, friends, that's my hope for you today. Peace and grace to you all, and we'll pick it up tomorrow with another 11:11. Just a reminder tonight, we are having our all church family night begins at 5:30. Going to be a great dinner and a great teaching. I hope you can make it in all that. Blessings of peace and grace. We'll pick it up tomorrow.